The massive ship appeared at the edge of the solar system on a Tuesday morning. It moved slowly, deliberately, like nothing humans had ever seen before. The vessel was enormous, nearly 5 miles long with a gleaming silver hull that reflected the distant sunlight. Commander Allison Miller stood in the control center of Earth Defense Headquarters, her eyes fixed on the main screen. She had been woken at 3 a.m. when the object first appeared on long-range scanners. Now, 6 hours later, she had barely moved from her position. "Any response to our signals?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Nothing yet, Commander," said the communications officer. "We've tried all standard protocols." Allison nodded. She was 42 years old with short brown hair that she kept neatly trimmed for convenience. After 20 years in Earth's unified Space Force, she had earned her position through competence and level-headedness. Today would test both qualities. "Get me Dr. Hayes," she ordered, "and inform Ambassador Turner we may need him soon." Dr. William Hayes arrived 30 minutes later, looking disheveled. His clothes were wrinkled, and his beard needed trimming. He carried a tablet computer and a large cup of coffee. "Sorry for the delay," he said. "I was reviewing the scan data from my lab." William was Earth's leading expert on propulsion systems. If anyone could make sense of how the alien ship moved, it would be him. "What do you see, William?" Allison asked. He placed his tablet on the central table, bringing up a 3D model of the visitor. "Their engine technology is unlike anything in our theoretical models. The energy output is enormous but incredibly efficient. And look at this." He pointed to several areas of the ship. "These sections show different aging patterns. This vessel wasn't built all at once." Before they could discuss further, the communications officer called out, "Commander, we're receiving a transmission." The main screen changed to show a humanoid figure. It had pale blue skin, large eyes, and no visible hair. When it spoke, its mouth moved in sync with the translated words coming through the speakers. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Veldorians. We come in peace and wish to establish communication with your leaders." Ambassador Gregory Turner arrived just as the message ended. He was a tall man with dark skin and graying hair at his temples. His presence immediately brought a sense of calm to the room. "Have they sent anything else?" he asked. "No, sir," replied the communications officer. "Just that initial greeting." Gregory straightened his jacket. "Then let's respond. Open a channel." The ambassador introduced himself and welcomed the Veldorians to the solar system. He explained that a formal meeting would require preparation and suggested a preliminary video conference to discuss intentions and protocols. The Veldorian agreed, and within an hour, Allison, William, and Gregory sat in the secure conference room facing a screen showing 3 aliens. They introduced themselves as High Counselor Zex, Science Director Mella, and Fleet Commander Torin. "We have observed your world for some time," said Zex. His voice was translated to English but still carried a melodic quality. "Your species intrigues us. You accomplish much in very little time." "Thank you," Gregory replied cautiously. "We're curious about your intentions in our system." Zex folded his long, 6-fingered hands. "We seek alliance. A common enemy approaches, one that threatens both our peoples." The meeting lasted 4 hours. The Veldorians explained they were a long-lived species with individuals regularly reaching 500 Earth years. Their civilization valued precision, planning, and perfection in all things. "Our vessel, which you now observe, is our greatest achievement," said Science Director Mela. "The Eternal Harmony required 327 of your years to design and construct. Every component was tested for decades before installation." William couldn't hide his surprise. "Your only ship took over 3 centuries to build?" "It is one of only 2 we have ever completed," Mela replied with what seemed like pride. "The other remains in our home system. A third is nearing completion, after 289 years of construction." Later, when the humans conferred in private, William paced the room excitedly. "Their engineering approach is completely different from ours," he said. "They optimize every component to theoretical perfection before moving to production. No wonder it takes them centuries. Allison frowned. But is their technology that much more advanced? Could they be lying about how long it takes? Gregory shook his head. I don't think so. Their body language and speech patterns suggest honesty. I believe they're telling the truth about themselves and this enemy they mentioned. The next day, the Veldorians permitted a small human delegation to visit their ship. Allison, William, and Gregory, along with a security team, boarded a shuttle to the Eternal Harmony. The interior of the alien vessel was breathtaking. Corridors curved in mathematically perfect arcs. Every surface gleamed with an iridescent material that seemed to change color depending on the viewing angle. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon. Fleet Commander Toran led the tour. Each section, you see, was crafted by master artisans. The navigation center alone took 27 years to complete. William studied everything with intense interest. He noticed how each system was unique, custom-built rather than mass-produced. Beautiful, but incredibly inefficient from a production standpoint. In a vast chamber at the heart of the ship, High Counselor Zex waited for them. Behind him, a holographic display showed dozens of menacing black ships. These are the Krell, he said without preamble, a species that exists only to conquer and consume. They have destroyed 17 civilizations that we know of. Now they approach this region of space. The hologram changed to show a map of the galaxy with a red line moving toward Earth's position. How long do we have? Allison asked. Less than 1 Earth year before their scout vessels arrive. Their main fleet will follow shortly after. Gregory stepped forward. And you propose an alliance against them? Yes. Your species builds quickly but lacks our advanced technology. We possess superior technology but cannot produce enough ships to mount a defense. Together, we might survive. Later that evening, back on Earth, Allison met with the Global Defense Council. The room was filled with military and political leaders from every major nation. The Veldorians have offered to share their technology, she explained, in exchange for our help producing a fleet to defend against the Krell. Admiral Frank Peterson, head of Earth's United Military Forces, leaned forward. Can we trust them? William displayed the technical specifications the aliens had provided. Their technology is genuine and far beyond ours in many areas, but their production methods are incredibly inefficient. Meaning? Asked one of the council members. William smiled. Meaning that with our manufacturing capabilities and their designs, we could build ships in days, not centuries. We don't need their perfectionism, just their basic technology. Allison looked around the room. The threat appears real. The Veldorians have offered us a chance to survive it. I recommend we accept their proposal and begin immediate production of a defense fleet. The vote was unanimous. Operation Rapid Response would begin immediately. As the meeting ended, Allison found William staring out a window at the night sky. Can we really do this, she asked? Build ships with alien technology in days instead of centuries? William nodded. Humans have always been good at one thing, doing the impossible when our backs are against the wall. He turned to her with determination in his eyes. The Veldorians took centuries to build one perfect ship. We'll show them how to build hundreds of good ones in days. The largest shipyard on Earth was located in the Pacific Ocean, 50 miles off the coast of California. It had been built 10 years ago to construct space stations and exploration vessels. Now it would serve a different purpose. Chief Engineer Olivia Wright stood on the observation deck, watching as thousands of workers moved across the massive complex. She was 39 years old with red hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her hands were calloused from years of hands-on engineering, work before she moved into leadership. Impressive operation you have here, said a voice behind her. Olivia turned to see Veldorian engineer Trell. The blue-skinned alien was shorter than most of his kind, his large eyes blinking slowly as he surveyed the activity below. Thank you, Olivia replied. We've tripled our workforce in the past week. More shipyards around the world are being converted as we speak. Trell made a sound that the translation device interpreted as doubt. Your people move with great haste, but the designs require precision. Each component of our ships undergoes testing for at least 1 decade before approval. Olivia smiled. We don't have decades. We have months. She led Trell to a large workshop where Dr. William Hayes was examining the Veldorian engine schematics with a team of engineers. The designs were projected as holograms in the center of the room, rotating slowly to show every detail. Dr. Hayes, this is Engineer Trell. He's been assigned to assist us with understanding their technology. William looked up from his tablet. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had been working through the night. Excellent timing. We've been studying your propulsion system. It's brilliant but unnecessarily complex. Trell's posture stiffened. Each element has been refined over generations. There is no waste. There's no redundancy either, William said. He manipulated the hologram to highlight sections of the engine. Your design assumes perfect performance from every component. But what happens when something fails? Our components do not fail, Trell said. Each is tested for everything fails eventually, Olivia interrupted gently, especially in combat. William nodded. We're adding backup systems and simplifying the overall design. It won't be as efficient as yours, but we can build it in weeks instead of centuries, and repair it when it breaks. Trell's expression was difficult to read, but his tone conveyed clear disapproval. You are compromising perfection for speed. We're choosing survival over perfection, William replied. In another section of the shipyard, Admiral Frank Peterson met with Commander Allison Miller. They stood in a room filled with tactical displays showing the approach of the Krell fleet. Frank was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s with close-cropped gray hair and a perpetual serious expression. He pointed to the display. The Veldorians estimate we have 9 months before the first Krell scouts arrive. The main fleet will follow 2 months later. Allison studied the projections. How many ships will we need? Based on Veldorian intelligence, the Krell will send approximately 50 capital ships. High Counselor Zex believes we would need at least 100 vessels to have any chance of victory. 100 ships in 9 months, Allison said quietly. Can we do it? Frank's expression remained stern, but there was a flicker of determination in his eyes. We've already begun. Every major nation is converting manufacturing capacity. We're treating this like a World War production effort. Across the globe, factories that once made cars, aircraft, and consumer goods were being retooled to produce ship components. Space agencies shared their resources and knowledge. Former rivals worked together, united by the common threat. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, Secretary Natalie Campbell coordinated the global response. She was in her early 40s with warm brown skin and a voice that commanded attention. Today she addressed representatives from every nation. The first hull sections are already being assembled, she announced. But we face a critical shortage of certain rare materials required for the Veldorian technology. A junior engineer named Sam Richardson raised his hand. He was only 26, fresh from graduate school with innovative ideas that more experienced engineers often dismissed. Madam Secretary, I believe we've found a way to substitute more common elements in the hull design. He approached the podium nervously, aware that his next words could impact humanity's survival. The Veldorians use a specific alloy for their outer hull that requires minerals rare on Earth, but I've found that a combination of titanium and processed lunar regolith can provide 95% of the same properties. Secretary Campbell looked to the Veldorian representatives. Would such a substitution be acceptable? High Counselor Zex conferred with his scientists before responding. It would reduce the effectiveness of the design. The ships would be more vulnerable. But we could produce many more of them, Sam pointed out. After much debate, the decision was made to proceed with the modified design. Production would be standardized across all shipyards, with components built to be interchangeable between vessels. 3 weeks later, the first human-built ship with Veldorian technology was ready for testing. It was smaller than the Eternal Harmony, but still impressive at nearly 1 mile in length. Its hull gleamed silver-gray in the morning sun as it rested in the launch cradle at the Pacific shipyard. Commander Allison Miller stood with High Counselor, Zex and Dr. William Hayes as final checks were completed. You've named it already? Zex asked, noticing the name painted on the hull. Swift response, Allison confirmed. It's human tradition to name our vessels. Zex made a gesture that indicated concern. This ship should still be in the design phase. You've rushed its creation. William checked the diagnostic readings on his tablet. All systems are functioning within acceptable parameters. It's ready for its first test flight. The Veldorian's expression showed clear doubt. Our test protocols require years of ground testing before any vessel leaves atmosphere. We don't have years, Allison reminded him gently. Captain Lisa Warren had been selected to command the swift response. She was an experienced space pilot with over 15 years of service. As she led her crew aboard, she spoke briefly with Allison. Everything looks good, Commander. We'll put her through basic maneuvers and test the main systems. 2 hours later, the swift response rose from its cradle on pillars of blue energy. It moved smoothly, accelerating upward until it was just a bright point in the sky. In the control center, everyone watched the telemetry data with tense anticipation. The ship completed its atmospheric exit successfully and began orbital testing of its systems. Engine performance at 91% of theoretical maximum, reported one technician. Structure holding steady under stress tests. High Counselor Zex watched in silence, his large eyes fixed on the screens. When the swift response safely returned to Earth 6 hours later, he finally spoke. You have accomplished in weeks what would take us decades, he admitted. The vessel is crude by our standards but functional. William smiled. That's the human way. Good enough is sometimes better than perfect. By the end of the second month, 5 more ships had joined the swift response. Production lines were becoming more efficient as workers gained experience with the alien technology. Factory manager Paul Martinez had implemented round-the-clock shifts at facilities worldwide. In orbit around Earth, the Veldorian vessel Eternal Harmony watched as humanity prepared for war. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the Krell fleet continued its relentless approach. 4 months had passed since the arrival of the Veldorians. The skies above Earth were now dotted with the silhouettes of newly constructed ships. 57 vessels were complete, with another 30 nearing the final stages of assembly. The production rate continued to accelerate as workers moved further down the learning curve. Dr. William Hayes stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the monitors that showed construction progress around the world. Beside him, Veldorian engineer Trell was examining the latest production reports. Your build quality is improving, Trell admitted. His tone had softened over the past months as he witnessed the human achievement, though I still detect variations between vessels that would never be permitted in our construction process. William nodded. We've standardized where it matters most: weapons, engines, life support. The minor variations don't affect performance. On another screen, they could see the massive orbital assembly yard where larger components were being fitted together. Teams of workers in spacesuits moved with practiced efficiency, guiding hull sections into place with precision that would have been impossible just months earlier. We've learned a lot from you, William said to Trell. Not just technology, but patience and attention to detail. Have you learned anything from us? Trell was silent for a moment. Perhaps your species' ability to improvise is remarkable. You accept imperfection as a necessity rather than a failure. It is a different way of thinking. Their conversation was interrupted when Commander Allison Miller entered the room. Her face was grim. We just received word from the Long-Range Detection Network, she said. The first Krell scout ships have been spotted at the edge of our solar system. They're ahead of schedule. William felt a chill run down his spine. How many? 3 vessels. Small compared to what we expect from their main fleet, but each one is roughly the size of our largest ships. She turned to Trell. Do the Veldorians have any insight on Krell scout behavior? The alien nodded. They will observe and report back to their fleet. They do not typically engage unless provoked, but they are heavily armed. Then we need to decide if we confront them now or let them gather intelligence, Allison said. The decision was made to send a small group of ships to monitor the Krell scouts from a distance. Captain Lisa Warren, now one of the most experienced commanders of the new fleet, was assigned to lead the mission. Her ship, the Swift Response, had been upgraded with the latest weapon systems. 5 human vessels and the Veldorian ship, Eternal, Harmony departed Earth orbit the next day. As they approached the outer solar system, Communications Officer Eric Johnson detected unusual energy readings. "Captain," he called from his station on the bridge of the Swift Response, "the Krell scouts are transmitting large data packets toward their home system." Captain Warren frowned. Eric was a slender man in his 30s with keen eyes and a quick mind. She trusted his assessments. "Can we intercept the transmissions?" "Negative. Their encryption is unlike anything in our databases." The small fleet maintained a careful distance, observing the Krell vessels. The alien ships were black, with hull designs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with an eerie precision that even the Veldorians found disturbing. On the Eternal Harmony, High Counselor Zex conferred with Veldorian strategist Mox, a military advisor who had studied the Krell for over a century. "They have likely detected our presence," Mox said. "The fact that they have not retreated suggests they are not concerned by our capabilities, or they are assessing them," Zex replied. "What do you make of the human ships?" Mox studied the tactical display. "Crude but functional. Their rapid production is impressive, but the Krell will not be intimidated by numbers alone." Back on Earth, production continued at an ever-increasing pace. Secretary Natalie Campbell had coordinated the delivery of resources from around the world, ensuring no shipyard ever lacked materials. Factory manager Paul Martinez had refined the assembly process to the point where a basic ship could be completed in just 12 days. Junior engineer Sam Richardson had been promoted to lead a special projects team after his success with hull materials. Now, he was working on a more ambitious project. "If we adjust the power distribution here," he explained to Chief Engineer Olivia Wright, pointing to a section of the engine schematic, "we can increase weapon effectiveness by nearly 30%. Olivia studied the design. "But that would reduce engine efficiency." "Only by 8%, Sam replied. "The trade-off is worth it. Our ships are already faster than the Krell scouts. We need more firepower." The modification was approved and implemented on all vessels still under construction. Retrofit teams began updating the existing fleet. Meanwhile, at the edge of the solar system, the standoff continued. For 3 days, the human Veldorian fleet observed the Krell scouts from a distance. Then, without warning, one of the black ships changed course, heading directly toward Neptune. "They're moving to get a closer look at our gas mining operations," Captain Warren reported to Earth. "Should we intercept?" Admiral Frank Peterson, after consulting with both human and Veldorian advisors, made the decision. "Shadow them, but do not engage unless they show hostile intent. We need to learn as much about their capabilities as they're learning about ours." The Swift Response and 2 other ships adjusted course to follow the Krell vessel. As they approached Neptune's orbit, the alien ship suddenly accelerated to an incredible speed, circled the entire planet in less than an hour, then rejoined its companions. It was testing us, Captain Warren realized, showing us what it can do. The next day, all 3 Krell scouts abruptly turned and began accelerating out of the solar system. "They're leaving," Eric Johnson reported, "heading back toward their A fleet." The human Veldorian force tracked them until they were beyond sensor range. When they returned to Earth, Admiral Peterson called an emergency meeting with all fleet commanders. "The scouts have seen our defenses," he said. "They know we're preparing for them. The question is, did we impress them enough to make them reconsider their attack, or did we just show them what they'll be facing?" Veldorian strategist Mox shook his head. "The Krell do not reconsider. They do not fear. They conquer." "Then we need more ships," Admiral Peterson declared. "We've built 82 vessels in 4 months. We need to double that in the next 3. Secretary Campbell looked concerned. "We're already at maximum production capacity." That evening, Dr. William Hayes was reviewing the Krell scout data when he had a realization. He rushed to find Chief Engineer Wright, who was overseeing the night shift at the Pacific shipyard. "Olivia, "I think I've found a way to dramatically increase our production rate," he said excitedly. "The Veldorians design each ship as a unique entity, but we've been standardizing components. What if we took that to the next level?" He showed her new design on his tablet. Modular construction. Each ship built from identical sections that can be mass-produced separately, then assembled at the end. We could have multiple factories specializing in specific modules rather than trying to build complete ships at each location. Olivia's eyes widened as she saw the potential. Like an assembly line for ships. Exactly. Henry Ford meets spaceship. Construction. The next morning, they presented the idea to Admiral Peterson and High Counselor Zex. The human leaders immediately grasped the concept's potential, while the Veldorians struggled with the idea of such standardization. "Every vessel should be unique," Zex protested, "crafted for its specific purpose." "Every vessel has the same purpose now," William replied, "to defend Earth against the Krell." The modular design was approved. Within 2 weeks, factories around the world had retooled to produce standardized sections that could be transported to orbital assembly yards. The production rate doubled, then tripled. As the 6th month since first contact came to a close, Earth's fleet numbered 120 ships, and the clock continued to tick toward the arrival of the Krell main force. The 8th month since the Veldorians arrived brought new challenges. Earth's orbital shipyards now worked at maximum capacity, with 342 vessels completed and another 50 in final assembly. The space around Earth was crowded with ships of various sizes, all built using the modular system Dr. William Hayes had developed. Fleet Coordinator Ben Garcia worked tirelessly to organize this massive armada. He was a former naval officer with a talent for logistics, now faced with the greatest challenge of his career. From his command center in Houston, he coordinated training exercises for the thousands of crew members needed to operate the fleet. "We need more experienced commanders," he told Admiral Peterson during their daily briefing. "Most of our captains have never seen combat." The Admiral nodded grimly. "Neither have the Veldorians. They've been running from the Krell for generations." On the Eternal Harmony, High Counselor Zex watched the human fleet with mixed emotions. The Veldorians had completed their 3rd ship after nearly 3 centuries of work. It had arrived from their home system last week, bringing additional warriors and scientists. 3 perfect vessels, the pinnacle of their civilization's achievement, now floated amid hundreds of human-built ships that had been constructed in a matter of months. "They build like children stacking blocks," Veldorian engineer Trell said as he joined Zex at the observation window. "Yet their fleet is formidable in its size if not its quality." Zex turned to his companion. "You have worked closely with them. Do you believe they can stand against the Krell?" Trell considered the question carefully. "Their approach is different from ours in every way. Where we seek perfection, they seek adequacy. Where we plan for centuries, they improvise in moments." He paused. "But there is strength in their methods that I did not recognize at first. They adapt quickly. They learn from failure instead of avoiding it." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message. The Long-Range Detection Network had spotted the main Krell fleet entering the outer solar system. They would reach Earth in approximately 2 weeks. On the swift response, Captain Lisa Warren received the alert while conducting training exercises with her squadron. Her ship had been upgraded multiple times over the past months and now served as a command vessel for a group of 20 newer ships. "All vessels return to formation," she ordered. "We're cutting the exercise short." Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Daniel Ross, looked concerned. "The Krell?" Lisa nodded. "They're earlier than expected. Again." Communications Officer Eric Johnson monitored the incoming data. Initial count shows 67 Krell warships. Their configuration matches what the Veldorians warned us about. Heavy weapons, strong shields, and based on the scout ship's performance, they'll be fast. Back on Earth, an emergency meeting was called with all senior military and civilian leaders. Dr. William Hayes and Chief Engineer Olivia Wright presented the latest ship production figures. "We have 342 operational vessels," William reported. "Another 50 will be ready within 5 days if we accelerate final testing. Admiral Peterson studied the tactical displays. The Krell outnumber us, but not by as much as we feared. What about our weapons' effectiveness? Tactical Officer Nicole Foster stepped forward. She was a brilliant strategist who had developed new combat maneuvers specifically for the human fleet. Our individual ships are less powerful than theirs, based on the scout data, but we've designed formations that maximize our numerical advantage. She demonstrated with a holographic display, showing how smaller human vessels could swarm larger Krell ships, attacking from multiple angles to overwhelm their defenses. The Veldorian ships will serve as our heavy hitters, she explained. Their weapons are significantly more powerful than anything we've built. We'll use them to target the Krell command vessels. The plan was approved. For the next week, the fleet practiced the new tactics, while the final ships were rushed to completion. Factory manager Paul Martinez worked his teams to exhaustion, completing the remaining vessels 2 days ahead of schedule. As the Krell fleet passed Jupiter's orbit, humanity made its final preparations. Around the world, people gathered with friends and family, watching news reports and praying for those who would soon go into battle. This was not just a fight for resources or territory, it was a fight for survival. On the day before the expected confrontation, Dr. William Hayes met with Veldorian engineer Trell one last time. They had worked together for months now, moving from professional respect to something close to friendship. "I wanted to thank you," William said. "Without your people's technology, we wouldn't have had a chance." Trell made a gesture that William had learned was the Veldorian equivalent of a smile. "And without your people's speed, we would be facing the Krell with only 3 ships, not nearly 400. William looked out at the fleet assembled in Earth orbit. "Funny how our weaknesses and strengths balanced each other." "Perhaps that is why the universe creates diversity," Trell replied, "so that different approaches may complement one another when needed." The human Veldorian fleet departed Earth the next morning, setting course to intercept the Krell before they could reach the inner solar system. Admiral Peterson, despite his age, insisted on commanding from the flagship Defiance, the largest vessel humans had built. Captain Lisa Warren led the first battle group, consisting of 60 ships arranged in the formation Tactical Officer Foster had designed. As they approached the orbit of Mars, long-range sensors detected the Krell fleet. "They've changed formation," Eric Johnson reported. "They're spreading out to encircle us." Lisa studied the tactical display. The Krell ships were arranging themselves in a sphere, attempting to surround the human Veldorian fleet. "They're using standard Krell tactics," said Veldorian strategist Mox, who had joined Lisa's ship as an advisor. "They believe their technological superiority will overcome our numbers." "Let's prove them wrong," Lisa replied. She opened a channel to her battle group. "All ships prepare to execute Maneuver Epsilon on my mark." The Krell fleet drew closer, their black ships absorbing the light from the distant sun. They moved with precision that rivaled the Veldorians, each vessel maintaining perfect position relative to the others. Suddenly, a transmission came through on all frequencies. The message was brief, translated by the Veldorian systems into English. "Inferior species. Surrender your worlds and resources. Resistance will result in complete destruction." Admiral Peterson's response was equally brief. "We decline your offer." The massive Krell flagship, nearly twice the size of the largest human vessel, fired the first shot. A beam of energy lanced out, striking one of the outer human ships and cutting it in half. "All ships, engage," Admiral Peterson commanded. The battle for Earth had begun. Space erupted in fire and light as the two fleets collided. The Krell warships launched a barrage of energy weapons, cutting through the outer line of human vessels. But the human ships responded with their own weapons, hundreds of smaller craft, swarming around the larger alien vessels. Captain Lisa Warren's voice remained steady as she directed her battle group. "Execute Pattern Delta. Focus fire on Target 7. 20 human ships broke formation and accelerated toward one of the larger Krell vessels. They spiraled around it, firing continuously from different angles. The Krell ship's shields flickered under the assault. On the bridge of the Swift Response, Communications Officer Eric Johnson monitored the battle network. "Battle Group 3 has lost 5 ships. Battle Group 8 reports heavy damage to 3. Krell vessels. The massive Veldorian ship Eternal Harmony moved through the chaos with deliberate precision. Its weapons were far more powerful than anything the humans had built, and each shot struck with devastating effect. 2 Krell ships had already been destroyed by its main cannon, but the Krell had noticed. 3 of their largest warships broke away from the main battle and converged on the Eternal Harmony. The Veldorian flagship is being targeted, Lisa reported to Admiral Peterson. They can't handle 3 Krell dreadnoughts alone. Divert battle groups 2 and 5 to support them, the Admiral ordered. The battle had been raging for 2 hours, and losses were mounting on both sides. 28 human ships had been destroyed, with dozens more damaged. 7 Krell vessels had been confirmed destroyed, with another dozen showing signs of significant damage. But the Krell still held the advantage in firepower. On the Defiance, Admiral Peterson met with his tactical officers. We need to target their command ship. If we can disrupt their coordination, it might give us an edge. Tactical Officer Nicole Foster pointed to a large vessel near the center of the Krell formation. That's their flagship based on communication patterns. But it's heavily protected. We'd need to create a gap in their defensive screen to reach it. Lieutenant Ryan Peterson, the Admiral's son and leader of a fighter squadron, volunteered for the mission. My team can create that gap, sir. His father hesitated only briefly before nodding. Do it. Ryan's squadron consisted of 12 small, fast ships designed for close combat. They were more maneuverable than anything else in the human fleet. Remember? Your training, Ryan told his pilots. Unpredictable movements never maintain a straight course for more than 3 seconds. The squadron accelerated toward the Krell defensive line. They weaved between enemy vessels, their small size making them difficult targets. Meanwhile, Dr. William Hayes had been studying the sensor data from the battle. From his position in Earth Defense Headquarters, he noticed something unusual about the Krell flagship. Their command ship's power distribution is different from the other vessels, he told Chief Engineer Olivia Wright. Look at these energy readings. There's a vulnerability in their rear quadrant where the shields are weakest. He quickly relayed this information to Admiral Peterson, who passed it to Ryan's squadron. We see it, Ryan confirmed. Adjusting our approach now. His squadron changed course, aiming for the weak point in the Krell flagship's defenses. The enemy ships responded, trying to close the gap, but the human vessels were too quick. We're through their line, Ryan reported, targeting the flagship's weak point. His squadron launched a coordinated attack, concentrating their fire on a single section of the massive ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, a chain reaction began as secondary explosions rippled across the Krell vessel. Direct hit, Ryan shouted. Their power core is destabilizing. The Krell flagship began to list to one side as explosions continued to tear through its hull. Its weapons fell silent, and its engines flickered and died. The effect on the rest of the Krell fleet was immediate. Their perfect formation faltered as the centralized command structure broke down. They're disorganized, Admiral Peterson observed. All ships press the advantage. The human Veldorian fleet surged forward, targeting Krell vessels that now fought as individuals rather than a coordinated force. The tide of battle had turned. 3 hours later, the remaining Krell ships began to retreat. Of their original 67 vessels, only 31 remained operational enough to flee. The human Veldorian alliance had lost 76 ships, with another 50 severely damaged. But Earth was safe. As the Krell disappeared into the darkness of space, a cheer went up across the communication channels. Crews celebrated their unexpected victory. On the swift response, Captain Lisa Warren allowed herself a small smile. They'll be back, won't they? She asked Veldorian strategist Mox. Yes, the alien replied. The Krell never abandon a target, completely. But it will take them time to rebuild their forces, perhaps years. Then we'll be ready for them, Lisa said. We'll build more ships, better ones. The fleet returned to Earth 2 days later. Crowds gathered around view screens worldwide to watch the vessels come home. Some ships limped back with severe damage. Others towed those too damaged to fly on their own. But to the watching people, each returning vessel was a symbol of survival against impossible odds. In the months that followed, humanity and the Veldorians strengthened their alliance. Earth's shipyards continued production, but at a more measured pace. Each new vessel incorporated lessons learned from the battle, with improvements suggested by both species. 6 months after the battle, Dr. William Hayes and Veldorian engineer Trell stood in a new facility built specifically for collaborative research. Around them, teams of human and Veldorian scientists worked together on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. "We're thinking of building a new type of ship," William said. "One that combines the best of both approaches, Veldorian precision where it matters most, human adaptability where it's needed." Trell examined the design hologram floating between them. "It will not be perfect," he noted. William smiled. "No, but it will be good enough to save both our worlds, and we'll keep improving it." High Counselor Zex joined them, looking more relaxed than he had in the entire time humans had known him. "My people have begun adopting some of your manufacturing methods," he told William. "Our newest ship will take only 15 years to complete instead of centuries. And we've learned the value of patience and precision from you," William replied. "Our latest vessels are built to much higher standards than our first attempts." Outside the research center, a memorial had been erected to honor those lost in the battle for Earth. The names of fallen crew members from both species were engraved side by side. Visitors often left flowers or small tokens of remembrance. Near the memorial stood a simple plaque with words that had become famous across Earth. "They took centuries to build one ship. We built hundreds in days. Together we found the perfect balance between precision and speed. United we survive." The stars above seemed a little less threatening now, though everyone knew the Krell would return someday. But when they did, they would face two civilizations that had learned from each other and grown stronger through cooperation. And in shipyards throughout the solar system, the work continued. Not in haste as before, but with purposeful determination. Earth would be ready. The lessons of the past would guide the future, for in the vastness of space, diversity of thought and approach was perhaps the greatest strength of all.